What if the person hurting you the most is the same person who once made you feel the most loved? Think about that for a moment. What if the compliments, the attention, the affection, the promises were never truly about you? What if they were part of something much darker? Imagine meeting someone who seems perfect. They understand your struggles. They finish your sentences. They tell you things you've always wanted to hear. You are special. You're different from everyone else. I've never met anyone like you. It feels like destiny, like you've finally found your person. But then, something changes. The warmth becomes coldness. The admiration becomes criticism. The support becomes control. And before you realize what's happening, you're apologizing for things you never did, questioning memories you know are real, and losing confidence you once had. How can someone make you feel like the most important person in the world, and then make you feel worthless? Today we're diving into the hidden world of narcissism. We'll uncover the psychology behind it, the manipulation tactics they use, why so many intelligent people get trapped, and most importantly, how to protect yourself. Because by the end of this video, you may never look at certain relationships the same way again. Chapter 1. The Mask. Let's start with a question. What comes to your mind when you hear the word narcissist? Most people imagine someone arrogant, someone obsessed with themselves, someone constantly seeking attention. And while that can be true, real narcissism is often much harder to detect. Many narcissists don't walk around announcing who they are. In fact, some appear kind, generous, helpful, even charming. That's because what you're seeing is often a carefully constructed mask. Imagine an actor standing on stage. The audience sees confidence, power, perfection, but backstage, the actor is terrified, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of being judged, afraid of being exposed. For many narcissists, life feels exactly like that. Psychologists often describe narcissism as a defense mechanism, a shield protecting a fragile sense of self. The confidence you see may not always be genuine confidence. Sometimes it's compensation, a way to hide deep insecurities. And that's why narcissists can become obsessed with status, success, beauty, power, or admiration, because these things help maintain the illusion that they're special, superior, untouchable. But maintaining an illusion requires constant validation, and that's where other people come in. Chapter 2. How Narcissists Are Created. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to become a narcissist. The roots often go much deeper. Imagine a child growing up in an environment where love is conditional. When they succeed, they're praised. When they fail, they're criticized. When they perform well, they receive attention. When they struggle, they feel invisible. Over time, the child learns something dangerous. My worth depends on how impressive I appear. Not who they are, not what they feel, but how others perceive them. Some psychologists believe narcissistic traits can develop from excessive praise. Others point to neglect, harsh criticism, or emotional instability in childhood. The exact cause varies, but the result is often similar. A person who feels empty inside, yet desperately wants the world to believe they're extraordinary. So they build a mask, and eventually, they become dependent on that mask, because without it, they fear rejection, failure, and shame. Chapter 3. Love Bombing. The Perfect Trap. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful weapons in a narcissist's arsenal. Love bombing. Imagine you're walking through a desert. You're thirsty, exhausted, looking for water. Then suddenly, someone appears with everything you've ever needed. Attention, affection, validation, understanding. They text constantly, call frequently, compliment you endlessly, and make you feel like the center of their universe. It feels amazing, because it is designed to feel amazing. The goal is emotional attachment. The faster you become attached, the easier you become to control later. Many victims describe the beginning of narcissistic relationships as magical, almost too perfect. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Real relationships develop gradually. Trust takes time. Connection grows slowly. But love bombing creates intensity before genuine intimacy. And intensity is often mistaken for love. Chapter 4. The Devaluation Stage. Once attachment is secured, everything begins to change. The compliments become criticism. The attention becomes distance. The affection becomes unpredictability. Suddenly, you're no longer perfect. You're too emotional, too sensitive, too demanding, too difficult. And you start trying harder. You become more patient, more forgiving, more understanding. You think, if I can just get back to how things were before. But that's the trap. The beginning was never sustainable. The narcissist wasn't showing their true self. They were selling an image. And now that you're attached, they no longer need to maintain it. This stage creates confusion because you keep comparing the current reality to the beautiful memories of the past. And those memories become a prison. You stay because you believe the good version of them will return. But often, that version never truly existed. Chapter 5. Gaslighting, the War on Reality. Now we arrive at one of the darkest tactics. Gaslighting. Imagine this. You clearly remember a conversation. The words, the details, the emotions. You know what happened. Then someone tells you it never happened. At first you resist, but they repeat it. Again, and again, and again. Eventually, you begin doubting yourself. You check your memory, your judgment, your perception. That's the power of gaslighting. The goal isn't to convince you they're right. The goal is to make you stop trusting yourself. Because once a person loses trust in their own reality, they become easier to manipulate. They start depending on the narcissist for answers, for validation, for truth. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants. Control. Chapter 6. Why victims stay. Many people ask, why don't victims just leave? The answer isn't weakness. It's psychology. Imagine a slot machine. Most pulls result in nothing. But occasionally, you win. That unpredictable reward keeps people playing. Relationships with narcissists often work the same way. Cruelty, then kindness, distance, then affection, criticism, then praise. Your brain becomes addicted to uncertainty. You keep hoping things will improve. And every small moment of affection feels like proof that the relationship can be saved. But what you're often experiencing is not love. It's intermittent reinforcement. One of the most powerful psychological conditioning techniques known. And that's why leaving can feel incredibly difficult. Chapter 7. The biggest fear of a narcissist. You might think narcissists fear losing money, power, status, or relationships. But their greatest fear is exposure. Being seen without the mask. Being seen as flawed, ordinary, imperfect. Because beneath the grandiosity often lies deep insecurity. That's why criticism can trigger explosive reactions, even small criticism. The mask must be protected at all costs. Because if the illusion collapses, they're forced to confront the reality they've spent years avoiding. Final lesson. If there's one thing I want you to remember from this video, it's this. Not every difficult person is a narcissist. Not every argument is manipulation. But understanding these patterns gives you something powerful, awareness, and awareness changes everything. Because manipulation thrives in confusion. It thrives in darkness. It thrives when you don't recognize what's happening. The moment you see the game, you become harder to control. The moment you trust your own reality, you regain power. And the moment you stop seeking validation from people who benefit from your self-doubt, you begin to reclaim your life. So let me ask you one final question. Have you ever encountered someone who used any of these tactics? Love bombing, gaslighting, devaluation? Share your experience in the comments. And if you found this video valuable, subscribe for more psychology documentaries exploring the hidden forces that shape human behavior. Because the next person who tries to manipulate you is counting on you not knowing what you've learned today. Now you do.